left to right. Russell Westbrook.
You love the Philadelphia Eagles. Let me get a hell yeah!
What is up, everybody? Welcome to Party on Broad. It's your boy Deibs, Mr. Crockpot on Twitter. The 76ers defeated the Milwaukee Bucks 121-109. Joining us today, we have Austin. Follow him on Twitter at KrellTPL. First of all, Merry freaking Christmas, man.
Merry Christmas to you, Dive. Merry Christmas to all of our family at TPL, and Merry Christmas to our loyal supporters. We appreciate you guys more than you know.
Absolutely. Amen, man. The 76ers defeated the Milwaukee Bucks in quite possibly one of the most memorable games in possibly years here, man. Let's react to it. Where do we start first? We got to start with Mr. Joel Embiid, who finished the game with 31 points, 11 boards in 28 minutes. You were at the game. What was going on, man? Give me the scene.
So usually when you go, it's sort of like everyone's sort of coexisting happily, but it's sort of like a, stay out of my way, I'll stay out of your way kind of thing. It's a typical Philly vibe. Today it was like we're all a family and we're all here to do one thing, and that's kill the Bucks. And so it was sort of like a really nice Christmassy vibe, which makes sense because it was Christmas. But I mean, from the jump, it was. The energy in the building was just tremendous. It was an unbelievable experience.
Before we get into Embiid, I got to ask you, there were some tweets going on that all the stadium was booing every single Bucks player. Did you boo Dante DiVincenzo? And
so I'm not a I'm not a booer. I think it's just sort of like it's like a fan thing to do, and I try to kind of like reduce that amount, the amount of that I do. So I don't boo, but people were definitely actively cheering Dante. So I mean, there were some. He definitely had more support than any other Buck in the entire arena.
That's awesome. So we saw Joel Embiid. Let's talk about Joel. So we saw Joel Embiid defend Giannis from the jump. It was just a clear advantage for the Sixers from the start of the game. What was your take on Embiid defending Giannis? Because is that something all Sixers fans should be looking forward to in the playoffs? Sixers versus Bucks, because we saw how much the Sixers struggle versus the Celtics. We saw how much the Sixers struggle against the Toronto Raptors. Like, what was the difference here?
So I think first and foremost, the difference was the intensity. The Sixers on both ends were very, very focused from the jump. And you could see that they meant business and that they were locked in and they were going to win this game. And from the get-go, it's weird because you wouldn't think, given like Embiid's conditioning or so we believe, or his size, or like his feet, like you wouldn't think that he'd be able to keep up with the speed of Giannis. But to his credit, he and Al Horford in tandem. That was the defensive strategy. Just throw bigs at him instead of wings. And Al Horford and Joel Embiid did a fantastic job. Giannis 27 from the field, 0 of 7 from 3. He had 18 points in the game. He's averaging, I think, like 30 something. So, I mean, your strategy worked perfectly there.
Embiid had 14 points in the first quarter. Then it moved on to 23 points and 7 boards in the first 15 minutes. Dude, he led one of the best first halves in recent memory. My first vibe of this first half of this Sixers game went to the Golden State Warriors game back in 2017. I don't know if you remember that one.
I was there.
But
they were up like I think 72-46 in the early part of the third quarter.
Yeah.
And they ended up losing the game by 15. We're just like, wait a second, what the hell just happened here?
So the Bucks did have a fourth quarter run. They sort of moved to the zone and
had
issues with the zone, but
it was sort of like they were making desperation threes in the last minute, and we've seen the Sixers do that in the past too. And like it makes the game closer than it actually was. Like the Bucks were never actually back into that basketball game in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, man. just Joel Embiid versus Giannis. There was some memorable moments, especially in that third quarter when he had the block and the strip. But after the game, we're gonna kind of go in the future here. After the game, did you see what Joel Embiid said? He said in a post-game interview on the court, he said, "Man, I've just been chilling and just kind of taking my time. Come playoff time, you'll see the real me." How about that? He finally threw it out there, saying that he's literally, deliberately, purposefully saving himself for the playoffs. I mean, we saw Kawhi do it all season last year. Is there any reason to be upset about that?
It's such a difficult situation because once you do that, you're now opening yourself up to benign, relentless memetry if you don't pull through. Like if he comes into the playoffs and in game 1 against whoever they play has like 7 turnovers and 18 points on like 7 of 21 shooting, we're going to see it all over the internet for days. And the ESPN's going to have bulletin board material. And it's going to become a whole narrative. I'm happy that he's sort of like kind of getting back to that point of being happy again on the court. Would I have said that? Probably not. But, Embiid's not one to talk and then not back it up. So if he had 31 and 11 tonight, was dominant all the way around, and if he can come into the playoffs and do that, not only will he back it up, but they'll also win a championship this year. So
31 points in 28 minutes doesn't really show exactly how dominant he was. This was a Shaquille O'Neal dominant performance, especially in that first half and into that third quarter. He kind of trailed off there in the fourth quarter. But some of the other Sixers players really had their moments. And that includes guys like Josh Richardson, Tobias Harris, even Al Horford. He didn't really fill up the point sheet on this one. But, I mean, rebounds, assists, blocks, steals. Dude, he was all over the court. Let's start off with Tobias Harris. 22 points, 8 of 16 from the floor. Dude, I mean, he just came, my first impression of Tobias Harris was hitting huge threes during times when he was kind of weathering the storm. There was a Bucks run, and he just came up big again and again. What would your take on Tobias?
So I think Tobias has done a really, really good job of just sort of being that steadying kind of presence and that piece that piece that he knows where his sweet spot is. He gets there. He's cash. And he's gotten him back into that groove. He had a bit of a slump, in the early portions of the year, and he's brought himself back up to a very respectable number. And today he was 5 of 7 from 3. He made timely baskets for the team. He was efficient, 22 points on 16 shots, and he played stellar defense. So it was a really, really solid game for Tobias today.
And then we had Josh Richardson, who excelled with Ben Simmons in transition and just hit huge three after huge three. I think it was like 4 of 7 from 3 today.
4 of 11.
4 of 11? Okay. Just a great performance again from Josh Richardson. And then we move on to guys like Furkan Korkmaz, who is averaging 18.5 points a game the last 2 games in just 23 minutes, man. What? It
defies all logic. And there was one possession in the game where they were switching, and then Korkmaz inevitably ended up on Giannis, and I was like, oh my Jesus, good Lord, please let this end fast. And then I think Giannis went to the basket and laid it up, and then I was like, all right, that was getting a shot in the arm, but other than that, not too bad.
And then you look at Ben Simmons, man, just another phenomenal game. He didn't really impact the game offensively in that first half, but dude, he was all over the place, man. Especially defensively, dude. 15 points, 14 assists, 2 blocks, 3 steals, 7 of 10 from the floor, 38 minutes, man. What was your take on Ben Simmons today?
So I thought that people all over the internet, all over the country, they all have their takes, and most of them you can tell are uneducated because most of them say that Ben Simmons needs to do this, needs to do that. It's not good enough. Ben went out there tonight. He had 15 points on 7 of 10 shooting, 14 assists, 3 rebounds, 2 turnovers, And he was a rock solid, steady force on defense as per usual. He's doing it now against the best teams. Now the key is he has to want to do it on any given game. He has to come out and not like choose and pick and choose when he's going to do it. But he's shown he can do it on any given day against any team that he wants to do it against. It's about locking in and having that mental desire to do it.
I fully agree. And there were several times in this game where he got the ball at the top of the key and just drove to the basket and beat his man off the dribble and got literally whatever he wanted right at the rim. And you know what my first thought was? Like, the asshole that I am, I'm just like, dude, why couldn't you do that against fucking Kendrick Nunn versus the Heat? It was like literally the same play with 12 seconds left in that game. Ben's got it, man. He just, like you said, man, it's just got to click right between here.
Some games, some defensive matchups, it does, and others, it doesn't. It's a very weird phenomena for him. But he did it against a team that is arguably the best team in the NBA, and he silenced a lot of critics tonight. I mean, he didn't get 25 points, which is, I know, is like, if you can't, you're not a great scorer. It's not sexy. It's not like aesthetically pleasing. But the fact of the matter is that they don't win that game without Ben Simmons. So,
you want to talk a little bit? Let's talk about the negatives. You want to talk a little bit about how terrible these refs were on Giannis and how much the ESPN just gushes over this guy. There was a play in the first half where ESPN tweets out, Giannis dunks from the free throw line, and then
and he took 3 steps. And you're like, well, of course he dunked it from the free throw line. It took 3 steps.
His literally last step was like 3 feet from the line, from the rim. I'm just like, man, like I this guy's intolerable. I love Giannis the player. It has nothing to do with Giannis. It's sickening, man. And we saw today again and again the refs just catering to this guy. I get it. He's a superstar. What were the fans saying?
So they were billing him pretty actively, as I'd expect them to do. I thought I was most disappointed in the way that he conducted himself when things weren't going his way. Like, he got more physical and more like sort of childish when things got bad. He got hit in the eye, and keep in mind, this is a guy who was getting calls all game long, and it was absurd. And he gets hit in the eye, and then he goes up and gets in Tony Brother's face. You're on national TV on Christmas. Like, I know, you're not like it might be a different culture in Greece. Maybe Christmas isn't a big deal in Greece. I don't know. But you cannot do that on a national stage on a holiday like that. Like, that's not conducive to the kind of environment that you're trying to play in. So I thought that he carried himself pretty poorly, but we all know what Giannis is. He's a tremendous player. I think the Bucks and their fans should be a bit concerned, but considering that there seems to be a logical game plan that the Sixers can feed with a steady diet of Horford and Embiid, and you can essentially neutralize them. I mean,
Horford's so good. When Embiid left, Horford stepped right in, man. He was brilliant.
Yeah, and I think if you look at the Bucks' schedule, like, I know that their record is very impressive, very good. But then you think about like who do they play? Are they playing like the Rockets, the Heat, the Lakers, the Celtics back to back? No, this is their last couple games before they lost to Dallas. Cleveland, Memphis, New Orleans, Orlando, Detroit, New York. Clippers are in there. Charlotte, Atlanta, Cleveland, Detroit, Atlanta, Chicago, Oklahoma City. I mean, they're good, but you put them up against a great team, and I'm not sure. I mean, they lost to Dallas in Milwaukee by 4. They beat the Lakers by 7, I should say, and they beat the Pacers by I think like 30. So I mean, I want to see what they look like consistently when they're matched up against a team that's very good on a nightly basis. And you have 1 day's rest, then you play them again. 1 day's rest, play them again. I don't know that I buy them long term, because I don't buy Chris Middleton. I definitely don't buy him, even though he was better than Giannis was tonight. And I think that when push comes to shove, they don't have shot creators, and I think that's going to hurt them a lot in playoffs.
Is it crazy to say that I'm way more terrified, like tears level more terrified of the Celtics and the Raptors in the playoffs than I am with the Bucks. I don't think that's a reach. I think that's pretty much.
I'm not scared of any of them. I mean, I mean the Celtics you've beaten now, once at home and once on their home court.
Okay.
You've beaten the Raptors by 20. I mean, what is there to be afraid of?
All right. Let's do some rapid fire player grades, and then we'll wrap this up. All right, let's start off with Joel Embiid, A+. What's your grade?
A+.
A+. Ben Simmons, go ahead.
A.
Agreed. Al Horford.
B+. A-.
I'm like
I think I think that what we're always going to see is that as he gets older, his impact is not going to be as much stat sheet as it is like eye test. Tonight, he was one of the big reasons they were able to keep the Greek Freak below what he usually does.
I fully agree. I mean, 11 points, 10 boards doesn't scream a great game, but I personally thought on both sides, man, he had a great game. I give him like in A- range. Josh Richardson, A-. What about you?
A-. A-. Yeah, probably A-. I mean, I think he made timely baskets. I think he just could have, he made a couple of mistakes. I mean, he missed 13 shots, made 7. So that isn't efficient by any stretch. But I mean, he was largely a very important player, and he made significant plays for the Sixers in this game tonight.
Tobias Harris, A. I gotta give. I mean, he's a
A-. I would have given him an A-. I want to see him do more on the boards. I think he's a big enough player. He's matched up against small forwards. I think he should be able to get more than 4 rebounds in a game. But I mean, he's here to score the ball, and that's what he did. So I can't complain too much. Also, Brett Brown gets an A+ for today. They had 48 points at halftime. This is the most efficient offense in the league. It's one of the best defenses in the league. You were up. You had 90-something points on them by the fourth quarter. You had 69 at halftime. They only had 48 at halftime. This was, by all accounts, a dominant coaching performance by Brett Brown. And if you think about not just past that, Embiid scored 31 because Brett put him in the position to do that. He had him on the block, in the post, and he was feeding him nonstop. He got him engaged, got him into the game early on, and it was over after that. So Brett Brown largely did a fantastic job today. I don't care what anybody says. 21
3-pointers made today, man. Franchise ties.
Yep. So it was an all around just dominant display of basketball. And I think the NBA never will do it because they just hate it. But the Sixers put a lot of team on notice tonight.
And then we have Furkan Korkmaz, 16 points in 25 minutes. Dude, I mean, I got to give him an A because from my expectations, he's just blowing them away the last 2 games. He's come in, he's shooting confidently. I'm loving what I'm seeing from Furkan. Do I want to see him in the playoffs? That's a whole other different situation.
Yeah, we'll get there. Yeah. As the guy behind me said, Turkish Jordan.
That is awesome. Any last comments before we wrap it up, man?
We are here to stay, and it's a new era. I think it's time to credit this team a little bit, and they might have their lulls from time to time, as they did last week. Can't get too low, can't get too high, and it's business as usual.
I mean, for a lot of fans here, they have been dogging this team offensively. 125 points, 125 points, 121 points, man. They're clicking, man.
I mean, I was told Brett Brown was like 0-10, but I guess
pretty much everybody on the Sixers roster was pretty much getting traded. Only 3 weeks ago.
We should have traded everyone for nothing. Had an empty roster, not played any games.
The Sixers move on to 23-10, the best win of the season by far, one of the most memorable wins in recent memory. Make sure you follow Austin on Twitter at KrellTPL and follow his
24 followers from 2000, I might add.
Woo! His podcast is The Feed to Embiid, also on Twitter at The Feed to Embiid.
If you like young men yelling and cursing and screaming at the ceiling, then that's the kind of podcast you want.
I mean, you're listening to it right now.
There we go. Exactly. A little preview. Just cover Deibs' face and just listen, and you just look at me. It's basically the same thing.
I think most of our listeners do that anyway. So make sure you check out everything at our website, thepaintedlines.com. For Austin, for myself, thanks for watching, guys. Go Sixers, stay awesome.
Sixers win it! Wow! Oh man, Embiid just posterized Russell Westbrook.
You love the Philadelphia Eagles. Let me get it.